The emergency ward lights buzzed coldly above Amaka's pale, almost lifeless body. An oxygen mask covered her dry lips, while tubes filled her thin arms. Her weak chest rose and fell slowly, like a candle about to die. Mimi and Mara, both 12 years old, stood holding their mother's cold hands. Their torn gowns were dirty with dust. Tears stained their small faces. "We need 7 million naira, or the surgery cannot save her life." 7 million felt like a mountain. They had never seen 500,000. Mimi looked into her mother's sunken eyes and whispered through fresh tears, "Please hold on a little longer, Mummy. Please don't leave us now." Mara squeezed the cold hand tighter and prayed God would send help. Amaka managed only a faint smile. She had no strength to speak. The doctor shook his head sadly and walked away from the bed. Time was running out fast. The twins stepped into the corridor crying. At the hospital entrance they saw a black Rolls-Royce Phantom arrive. A tall, dark-skinned man in a white coat stepped out calmly. His polished shoes shone. His stethoscope sparkled. His badge read Dr. Maxwell Ikna. Before he took 3 steps, the twins fell to their knees crying, "Please, sir, help us. Our mummy is dying. We have nothing." People stopped to watch. Nurses paused. Security guards stared in silence. Maxwell froze when he noticed the crescent birthmarks on their hands. His heart skipped. He had seen those exact marks 13 years ago. He knelt down, examined the marks closely, and knew instantly why. "Stand up, little ones. Take me to your mother right now." Confused but filled with hope, the twins led him down the hallway. When he entered the ward, he froze again, seeing Amaka's face. 13 years ago, at a wild Banana Island party, one unforgettable night, she had vanished the next morning. He searched but never found her. Now she lay dying in his hospital with twins who looked 12. Maxwell turned to the nurse and ordered the operating room prepared immediately. "I am covering every kobo of the bill. Start the surgery now." The nurse rushed out while Mimi and Mara fell crying in gratitude. Maxwell whispered to himself, "God, what have I done all these years?" He stepped away from the theater window and went straight to the lab. He called the twins gently, saying he needed basic health tests done. They trusted him completely and let him draw small blood samples. Hours later, the surgery ended. Amaka survived and lay stable at last. That night, Maxwell sat alone staring at the DNA test results. Positive. 100% match. He was truly their biological father. His hands shook as the paper fell. Questions flooded his mind. Why did she disappear? Why did she never try to find him? His phone buzzed with congratulations from the hospital board and media. He ignored everything. His heart was heavy with guilt and shock. He remembered his ex-wife Gloria, who left because they couldn't conceive. Now fate had shown him he had children living under a bridge. At sunrise, Amaka opened her eyes and saw the hospital ceiling. She thought she had died until the heart monitor beeped steadily. She turned and saw Mimi and Mara sleeping peacefully on the couch. New clothes, clean faces. They looked like little angels at last. The nurse smiled and said, "You're strong." The surgery went very well. Amaka's weak voice asked who the doctor was that saved her. Dr. Maxwell Ikena, the chief medical director, paid for everything. Amaka's stomach dropped. She whispered the name Maxwell in disbelief. Later that morning the door opened, and there he stood. Older, their eyes locked. 13 years melted away in one silent moment. "Hi, Amaka," he said softly, walking slowly to her bedside. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "Maxwell, is it really you?" He placed his hand over hers and nodded with wet eyes. "I didn't recognize you at first, but the girl's birthmarks, I ran a DNA test," he continued, voice gentle but firm. "They are mine, aren't they?" he asked, already knowing the truth. Amaka sighed long and painfully, then nodded without saying a word. "I looked for you everywhere after that night," Maxwell said quietly. "I was scared," Amaka whispered, tears rolling down her cheeks. "When I found out I was pregnant, I had no way to reach you. My fiancé, Benjamin, accepted the babies and married me anyway." Maxwell's face hardened when she said Benjamin died 2 years ago. "My brother-in-law Emma took the house, the car, everything. We lived under Oshodi Bridge for 2 years, she sobbed. Maxwell dropped to his knees beside the bed, voice breaking completely. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have found you somehow." Amaka placed her weak hand on his head and forgave him. The door opened. Mimi and Mara walked in and froze. They saw their mother crying and the doctor on his knees. Amaka looked at them and whispered, "Babies, you need to know." Maxwell stood, wiped his face, and faced the confused twins. "I am your father," he said, voice trembling with emotion. Silence fell heavy in the room as the girls processed everything. Mara spoke first, voice shaking. "But we were homeless all this time. I didn't know you existed," Maxwell answered with tears falling. He showed them the identical crescent birthmark on his own wrist. Mimi stepped forward slowly and placed her small hand in his. Mara joined them, placing her hand on top of theirs. "We just want a family again," Mara whispered through tears. Maxwell pulled his daughters close and hugged them for the first time. 1 week later, Amaka was discharged and taken to his mansion. The twins stared in wonder at marble floors and sparkling chandeliers. Their new bedroom was bigger than the whole space under the bridge. Soft beds, new clothes, warm food, everything felt like a dream. Amaka stood on the balcony watching the sky, healing slowly. Maxwell sat in his study holding the DNA paper again. 1 week later, Amaka was discharged and taken to his mansion. The twins stared in wonder at marble floors and sparkling chandeliers. Their new bedroom was bigger than the whole space under the bridge. Soft beds, new clothes, warm food, everything felt like a dream. Amaka stood on the balcony watching the sky, healing slowly. Maxwell sat in his study holding the DNA paper again. He still could not believe he had missed 12 whole years. Amaka knocked gently and entered, eyes lowered to the floor. He handed her the DNA result and thanked her for raising them. "There's more," she said, voice breaking with fresh pain. "Emma caused Benjamin's accident using juju because of me." Maxwell's fists clenched. Anger and guilt burned inside his chest. "We are going to the police. He will pay for everything. And I want you and the girls to stay here forever." Amaka looked confused until he said he wanted to marry her. 3 weeks passed. Laughter returned to the once silent mansion. Mimi and Mara started school wearing crisp new uniforms proudly. They were introduced as Mimi and Mara Maxwell to their class. One evening, police arrested Emma outside the estate gates. He laughed darkly, even while handcuffs clicked around his wrists. "You think you've won," he shouted, as officers dragged him. That night, Amaka sat in the garden under the moonlight. Maxwell brought tea and sat beside her in silence. "I never stopped thinking about you all these years." He pulled out a small box and opened a gold ring. "Will you marry me, Amaka? Let us build our family properly." The twins ran out, giggling, having spied the whole proposal. "Say yes, Mummy," they shouted together, jumping with joy. Amaka looked at her daughters, then at Maxwell, and said yes. 1 month later they married in a beautiful Victoria Island hall. Amaka walked the aisle with Mimi and Mara beside her. Exactly 1 year later, a baby boy cried in the nursery. Amaka carried her son and smiled at his father's face. 11 years flew by. Mimi and Mara graduated as medical doctors. They walked the stage in black gowns, certificates in hand. Maxwell and Amaka cried proud tears in the audience that day. Emma was sentenced to 20 years after full confession. From prison he revealed Benjamin's hidden land for an orphan clinic. They built the Dr. Benjamin Care Foundation on that same land. Mimi became a pediatric surgeon. Mara became a cardiologist. Both sisters fell in love and married in a colorful joint wedding. 2 years later, grandchildren played around Amaka on the porch. The book From Under the Bridge to the Operating Room became a bestseller. Every speech began the same. "We were once homeless and forgotten, but love found us, healed us, and gave us new names." Amaka looked at her husband, children, and grandchildren around her. She whispered softly, "This is the life God wrote for us," and the cycle of pain was broken forever. I watched this beautiful story from Lagos, Nigeria. If you enjoyed it, like, share, and follow for more heart-touching stories. Mimi's first daughter, Amaka Jr., was born with the same crescent birthmark. Mara's twin boys arrived next, loud, healthy, and already fighting over toys. The mansion's garden now rang daily with the laughter of 5 grandchildren. Maxwell, grey at the temples, built a swing set with his own hands. Amaka watched from the veranda, her once broken body now strong and soft. Every December they returned to Oshodi under bridge with trucks of food and clothes. Mimi and Mara, now senior consultants, ran free medical camps there yearly. They treated mothers who looked exactly like their mother once looked. Children who once begged now called them Auntie Doctor with shining eyes. The Dr. Benjamin Care Foundation opened 3 new branches in Abuja, Port Harcourt, in New. On the 10th anniversary of the foundation, the president honored Amaka personally. She stood on the stage in Ankara and whispered, "This is for Benjamin." That night, Maxwell took her dancing like they were 25 again. He spun her slowly under fairy lights, while grandchildren clapped and cheered. Mimi's husband Donald struck oil in the Niger Delta, literally. Mara's husband Jerry sold his health tech startup for billions of dollars. Yet every Sunday all of them still gathered at the old mansion for jollof and prayers. The family table grew longer each year to fit new wives, husbands, babies. One quiet evening, Amaka found Maxwell in the study, staring at an old photo. It was the four of them the week they left the hospital 13 years earlier. She slipped her arms around him from behind and rested her chin on his shoulder. "Who would have thought pain could turn into this much joy?" she whispered. He turned, kissed her slowly, and answered, "Only God writes stories this beautiful." Outside, the grandchildren chased fireflies, while Mimi and Mara watched from the balcony. "Do you ever miss the old days?" Mimi asked, half teasing. Mara laughed softly. "I miss nothing except maybe Mummy's underbridge survival stew." They both burst into laughter that echoed through the warm Lagos night. Amaka joined them, wrapping an arm around each daughter-turned-doctor-turned-mother. Together they looked at the city lights that once terrified them. Now those same lights felt like stars celebrating their victory. Maxwell stepped out, carrying their youngest grandson on his shoulders. "Family meeting," he called. "Ice cream for everyone who can say Dr. Maxwell is the best grandpa." 5 small voices shouted it at once, while the adults smiled helplessly. Later, when the house finally slept, Amaka and Maxwell lay side by side. She traced the crescent birthmark on his wrist and smiled in the darkness. "From one night we never planned, God built an entire nation," she said. Maxwell pulled her close and answered, "And the story is still being written." Somewhere across the city, a little girl sleeping under a bridge looked up. She saw a shooting star and made a wish she didn't yet understand. Years from now, Mimi or Mara would find her, just like destiny once found them, because the love that pulled the Underbridge twins out of darkness never stopped growing. It became a river, flowing from one generation to the next, carrying hope. And under the same Lagos sky that once watched them cry, it now watches them shine. Thank you for staying till the end. Drop A if this story touched you. Share it with someone who needs hope tonight. See you in the next beautiful story. From my heart in Lagos, good night. Maxwell turned 70, hair now snow white, but his back still straight. Amaka, at 65, looked 40. Laughter had erased every scar. The mansion had grown wings, new guest houses, a private chapel, a library. 32 grandchildren now ran wild through the gardens every Christmas. Mimi rose to become Nigeria's youngest professor of pediatric surgery. Mara pioneered West Africa's first fully robotic heart surgery program. Their book sold 2 million copies and was translated into 12 languages. Netflix turned it into a 10-part series titled Crescent Daughters. On premiere night, the entire family filled 3 rows at Filmhouse Lekki. Amaka cried when the actress playing her knelt at the hospital entrance. Maxwell squeezed her hand and whispered, "That really happened to us." The real Mimi and Mara stood on red carpets wearing the same birthmark proudly. Reporters kept asking, "How does it feel to play yourselves in real life?" They always answered, "We are still living the happy ending." The Dr. Benjamin Care Foundation now ran 43 free clinics nationwide. On the 20th anniversary, they opened a teaching hospital named after Amaka. Mimi cut the ribbon while Mara held their mother so she wouldn't fall from tears. That same week, the prison warden called again with quiet news. Emma had died alone in his cell, clutching a photograph of Benjamin. Amaka went to the prison, stood at the gate, and prayed for his soul. She left a single white rose and walked away without looking back. Peace, finally complete, settled over her like morning dew. One golden Sunday, the whole family gathered for Maxwell's surprise renewal of vows. He knelt slowly, with bad knees in the garden where he first proposed. "Amaka, will you mess up my life beautifully for another 30 years? She laughed through happy tears and said, "Only if you keep saving mine." The grandchildren released white doves, while great-grandchildren, yes, already clapped tiny hands. That night, the Lagos sky exploded with fireworks spelling from under the bridge. Every TV station carried the image. Social media crashed from shares. Strangers in traffic stopped their cars to take pictures and cry. A new hashtag trended worldwide. #UnderbridgeMiracle. Years later, when Maxwell quietly passed in his sleep at 88, Amaka held his hand, kissed the crescent birthmark, and smiled. She buried him beside the clinic in Oshodi. He never stopped visiting. At the funeral, Mimi and Mara spoke together, voices steady and strong. Daddy taught us that one moment of kindness can rewrite destinies. Over 10,000 people attended. Many were children once treated free. They came wearing white t-shirts printed with the crescent moon. Amaka lived to 93, sharp until her very last day. On her final morning she asked to be driven under a shoddy bridge. She sat in the car, looked at the spot where her daughters once slept hungry, and whispered, "Thank you for never forgetting us." That evening she went home, lay down, and joined Maxwell in forever. The nation mourned for weeks. Flags flew at half-mast in 3 states. But the story refused to end with their death. Their great-grandchildren, doctors, engineers, pilots, pastors, still gather every December. They feed the poor under every bridge in Lagos and beyond. They still sign every new clinic, built on a love that refused to die. And if you visit Oshodi Under Bridge at Christmas, you will see it. A giant mural of Amaka, Maxwell, Mimi, and Mara, arms linked, smiling down. Underneath, in bold gold letters, the words they lived by. Even the darkest night cannot swallow a single crescent of light. The Underbridge twins story is no longer just a story. It is a promise written across Nigeria's sky. No child is too lost. No night is too long. No prayer is too small. Because somewhere, someone will stop, look twice, and remember a face from the past, and the miracle will begin again. This is the final chapter. From the same heart in Lagos, thank you for walking this journey with us. If this story ever lifted you, carry the light forward. Look twice at the child by the road. The next crescent daughter or son might be waiting for you. Good night, beautiful people. The story never really ends, it only multiplies.